What's up, y'all? Welcome back to my channel. So it feels like I haven't been posting in like forever. Like it literally feels so crazy to be doing a voiceover right now. I had to take a little break just because I'm not gonna lie to you. Like school was whooping my ass. Like work was really just putting me through the ringer. And I feel like I've been able to balance a little bit more, and I feel like I'm more like in my groove right now. And plus I've also been filming a lot of stuff for spooky season. So definitely expect to see a lot of videos during October. I'm gonna try to post every single day. That's my goal. I did that last year and almost made the entire month, but I've done like more looks I did last year, so like just expect some different things. I've definitely been playing with like, you know, face paint looks, and I've done a couple different like illustration looks and prosthetic looks. So you know, your girl has been busy, but I'm just happy to go ahead and post this because I did this back in like June or July. I feel like it was probably July because June was like Pride Month and I was going crazy for Pride Month. But yeah, I want to do like this like backwoods type shit because if you don't know, like Mississippi runs through my veins very strong, and I love the country. And I don't know, I was just like thinking about this idea of like doing like a couple, like a gay couple sitting on the back of a pickup truck, because I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I love trucks. I honestly love trucks, and I feel like that's so crazy because most people be like, oh, you want a truck? Yes, baby, I want to have a big ass motherfucking truck. I don't like cars. But anyways, yeah, I was basically just trying to do another illustration look. I did like a couple illustration look like for like summerish, so you know, I'll probably do another one for like fall, but this definitely does give fall vibes in my opinion. But anyways, like for the blue part, I was using the color case by Made by Mitchell. First off, I've been like, just feeling iffy about Mitchell just because like the whole Malachi situation. I know half the people didn't forgot about it by now, but I just like, I hate when brands that you love do some like yucky ass shit, because it's like, bro, I literally bought so much makeup from you and I haven't bought anything from him like in months, and I probably will not buy anything else from him, but I'm gonna use my products because I didn't spend too much money on this. But it's just so irritating to see just brands not take like their actions seriously or not be cautious about what they do, because you know, everything you do, like, you know, it has a reaction. But anyways, let's get back to the illustration. So I was mixing this custom color because I wanted to be like a gray truck, but I didn't want to do like silver. So I mixed like I think it's like, what is it even called? Quiet Storm. I think that's the gray I use. That I know I use platinum. And yeah, I usually just mix like my color fix just because I feel like the color fix are just easier to use because they dry down matte, and you know, they're very pigmented, so you know, I don't have to necessarily do layers. Like I could do layers if I wanted to just add that like, you know, extra detail, but I didn't feel like doing all that. So I'm taking the black color fix right now, and usually I would use blackout, but I've been out of blackout and like I've just been using obsidian, even though that's technically a metallic, but I feel like it still works for what it does. But yeah, I'm basically filling in the back window and then like the back of the truck, like the truck bed. So that is what I was doing, and then I want to mix a little bit of a different color to do like the mirror part, like, so that's what you see me like adding on right now. And then I'm drawing the tires on. And yeah, when it comes to me doing illustration looks, I used to do my eyebrows first and then just like carve the scene around it, but I like to wait now just because, if I'm being honest, like sometimes my brows, like I change the color I normally want to do just based on like the colors I use for the illustration. So that's why you didn't see me do my brows yet, but I mixed another grayish color to add some details for the truck, and I just use whatever like liner brush that I have, but I usually like the thicker liner brushes. Like they're not like crazy thin, but I feel like these are just easier to just work with. And then when I'm doing in between colors, I just take like a baby wipe or a paper towel and I just like wipe it off on there, or if I have like my like painting like pants on, I'll just like wipe it on there. But yeah, and I'm adding the red for like the headlights. I did look at the picture, but I wasn't necessarily trying to draw like any specific like truck, if that makes sense. I was just like using it as inspiration because I need to remember like what does it look like, even though like, you know, I see trucks all the time, but you know, I just had to like look for a reference picture. And I decided to draw the moon because it is giving like nighttime vibes, so I was like, yeah, of course, like I always draw the sun, so like it's nice to be able to draw the moon because I love the moon. And La Luna, like, because I actually did a like moon inspired like special effects makeup look recently, and I can't wait to drop it. But anyways, now I'm trying to like fill in like the like tag area. I was just picking random colors. I don't know why. Like I wanted to do something that was like just not too crazy, because I mean, that's not the like most like noticeable thing. Like I still have to draw two people, mind you, and I'm gonna draw a dog, and I'm just adding the yellow to kind of just like make it look a little bit more like 3D, like just to give it a little bit of highlight. Like whenever I do my illustration looks, like I don't always like feel like adding like a bunch of different products over and over and layers, but I do try to like make it at least look a little bit dimensional if I can. And I'm just taking the browns and I'm basically drawing a tree on in the background. Usually like I'll just like draw whatever background elements I feel like makes sense for the area, and then like once those dry, if I want to add something on top or whatever, I'll just do that. But to make it like a little bit like lighter in the middle, I did take a lighter brown color fix. I just feel like the color fix are just easier to use. And now I'm using one of the play pigments because like I only have like really like one real green color, and I need to get like another green color because I need to be able to add like, you know, different like highlights and shadows. And then I'm just basically making clouds, so I used the gray and then I'm going to add white on top, just kind of like how I do clouds on my normal drawings. But yeah, I just needed something in the background. I wanted to add some more elements before I actually started drawing the portraits. I like to try and get all the background stuff done if I can. I feel like that's just usually a little bit easier. But when it comes to me doing like these illustration looks, like you have to make sure like things are dry if you're drawing on top of them. So that's why I was doing all those different background elements. That way the middle part could dry. That way like I could actually like hurry up and do like the little portraits or whatever. So I do them in like sections. Like I try to like do what I feel like makes the most sense to me. I mean, I feel like my like painting style is probably a little bit chaotic. It's probably a lot chaotic, honestly, but I just do whatever like just feels right in the moment. Like I'm usually moving from area to area just because that's kind of how I do my paintings too. I don't always just like I'll work in one area and then I'll just like move to a whole nother area, and then if I need to go back, I'll go back in. And I don't know, I just wanted to do like a blonde wig. I don't know why, but now I'm drawing the other person kind of like leaning on her. And yeah, I like just used a reference picture just because I need to like, I like knew how to make them sit there, but I was like, let me make sure that everything looks like anatomically correct, because I was like, I don't know, I don't want to mess up and like this don't make sense and it just looks crazy. Because when I do these looks, like this takes a good little minute, I'm not gonna lie to you. I feel like when I do these looks, it takes more like, you know, time for me to do the illustration than it does the rest of my makeup. So that's why sometimes I'm just like, I don't want to have to mess up. I don't want to have to restart, because if I gotta restart, yeah, I'm not doing my makeup. Like I'm just gonna like delete this video and just go and take my makeup off. But anyways, I like to spray usually throughout the layers with like a hydrating setting spray just to make sure like, you know, I still have a little bit like movability, because like these color picks, they once again they dry down matte, which means that like it feels kind of like tightening on like your forehead when you have all these different layers of like the paint on. So it just like feels a little stiff. So that's why I kind of like to use the hydrating spray just to make it a little bit like easier with the wear, if that makes sense. And then once I'm done drawing everything, I always just take a black liquid liner and I just like outline everything. I hate this liner, I'm not gonna lie to you. I just was trying to use it just because, you know, I had bought it. But yeah, this is the Wet n Wild like H2O like liner. I just hate the brush just because like I feel like it's the worst brush to be picking up product. Like I always have to keep dipping into the container like every 2 seconds, and that's why I just don't like to use it, because it's like it hinders like what I do, and it makes I feel like the process a little bit like more extended just because it's not the easiest product to work with. So yeah, definitely wouldn't recommend that. My favorite like black liquid liner is the Essence Super Precise liner. I get it from Ulta and it's like $4, I think, so it's definitely worth the money. I mean, it's pretty good. And this is an up close. I don't know what happened to the part of the video where I did the highlights, but yeah, I could not find it. So I don't know, maybe my camera died. Sometimes like I'll be having issues, like sometimes my camera dies, or sometimes like there's storage issues, or sometimes like I don't realize that the camera stops recording because I'm usually not looking straight in the camera. Like I'll look towards the camera every now and then, but usually I have a mirror set up in front, like beside my camera, that way I can look at that so I can like see what I'm doing, because I just feel like that's just easier like that. But anyways, for my brows, I decided to do blonde brows just because I feel like it just like went with the vibe, especially because the illustration I feel like is a very like a dark color scheme. I want to do something to kind of like, you know, balance against that. So that's why you see me doing a nude brow. I love blonde brows. Like I don't know, they're chef's kiss. I would honestly wear my brows like this like all the time. Like I feel like blonde brows are probably my favorite. And I like to have like auburn like brownish brows too. I feel like those are cute. But I'm just using the concealer to clean up underneath my brows. That way I can go ahead and do my eyeshadow. So when it comes to me doing my eyeshadow base, I usually just first off like clean up underneath my brow with whatever concealer I plan on using for the rest of the look. And this is just me blending it out. I try to use a smaller brush, that way I just don't like mess up my brows or whatever. And normally I would just apply that same concealer like around my eyelid area and just blend it out, just so I have like a clear and like concise base. Because whenever your eyeshadow base is not even, or like you don't set it properly, like sometimes like it makes the eyeshadow blend weird. So I usually just use a translucent powder. Normally or sometimes I will use whatever powder I use to like set my highlight areas on my face, but I just feel like the translucent powder just makes more sense. That way I'm not really shifting the colors, because if I'm using a yellow like setting powder or whatever, or like a pink one, that could affect like whatever shade like I use for the eyeshadow, that could affect how it looks. So that's why I just do the translucent like setting powder. And I will either use the Melt She's Alive translucent powder, which came out with their Universal collab around this time last year, or I will use the RCMA No Color powder. The RCMA No Color powder, she's chef's kiss. I've had this for like years, and she's really worth the price. Usually I would just get it off of Camera Day Cosmetics, but you can like search up like what other sites have it. And I'm using my REM Beauty Pretty Pasta palette, because this was one of my favorite palettes like this summer. Like I use it all the time whenever I was just doing like a brown or like a nude look. If I'm doing a smoky eye or whatever, I just feel like this is just the easiest thing to use. And like they're actually pretty pigmented, so okay, Ariana, we love to see it. But I wanted to deepen up the like eye look, so that's why you see me using a little bit more black than I would normally use for like these type of looks. But it goes with the vibe, I feel like, just because like the blue on my forehead is a little bit deeper than normally I would do for an illustration look. So we might as well just go a little dark with the look. But anyways, I go back and forth within the brushes just to make sure that like the shades are blended out nicely. So I'll add whatever pigment I did, and then I will just go back in with a bigger or a fluffier brush just to make it a little bit more cohesive. And I decided to use this like eyeshadow from Melt Cosmetics. I can't remember what it is, but it will definitely be like on my Instagram, and I'll probably put it in my description box. But it's like a liquid eyeshadow, and I just applied it like with a like flat concealer brush, or like a C-shaped brush, if you know what I mean. And I've added the black shadow to the outside. Whenever I do cut creases, I think it's really important to go with whatever shade you use that's the darkest shade closest to your crease, to go in at the end of your eye this way, to just like blend the shimmer, whatever like liquid eyeshadow you're putting on. And now I'm just gonna go ahead and go in with my foundation. Sometimes I have to like remind myself what my method of like doing my makeup is whenever I do these illustration looks, because it's like I'm doing things like kind of out of whack. But anyways, I just use the NARS like foundation. I like this foundation. I like go back and forth with my foundations. Like I try not to use the same one every single look, that way I can like get good use out of my products. But I've been loving the Morphe foundation, so you'll probably see a lot more with a lot of the like upcoming like like actual like normal skin tone looks, because I've been doing so many face paints that I feel like I don't even use my foundations that much. But anyways, I'm just blending it out, trying to make sure it's like cohesive, and then I blend like right at the like seam of like the illustration, just so it doesn't like seem like a harsh line, or I don't forget to like blend over there. And then I'm going in with my Morphe concealer that I used earlier for my eyeshadow base, and I conceal the same areas I do all the time. So underneath my eye, my nose, my chin, and then underneath my cheekbones. I don't know, I used to not even do underneath my cheekbones, but I just feel like it just adds to the dimension. And plus, because I am adding like highlights and shadows, I just feel like it just makes my like face pop out a little bit more. But yeah, I used a like this thick brush from Made by Mitchell. It's not my favorite brush for concealer, but it does what it does. I feel like I have to wash my makeup brushes all the time. Like I literally just weekend I just washed my makeup brushes. I washed all of them, and it took me like a little over an hour, I'm not gonna lie to you. But it just felt so good to just go ahead and get out the way, because I had like only like a couple like face brushes left, and they were the face brushes that I like would have to like really try to figure out how I would use them to like do my makeup look. So yeah, even though I hate washing my makeup brushes, sometimes it's just like, well, I actually be doing my makeup, like I really be putting this shit on, because I have so many brushes. But anyways, I'm using this Milk bronzer as my like actual bronzer. I've only used this a couple times. Like I honestly be forgetting about it because it's so small and it's like in my little drawer, but I'll try to use it a little bit more, that way I can just give y'all my opinion on it. But so far it's so good, I don't have any complaints about it. And then whenever I do my eyeshadow bronzer, I always take like a flat brush, or like a eyeshadow like crease brush or whatever, to blend out my contour. And then I'm going back in with my foundation brush to blend the edges of that bronzer. And then I'm spraying my face with the hydrating setting spray. And then once it actually dries, like mind you, like I do cut a lot of the footage out, and sometimes I do stop recording like after I spray my face, so my face is actually dry from the setting spray before I even put my powders on. But I'm using the Morphe, I think this is like the caramel rich like translucent powder or something like that. But I'm just using this to set all of my highlighted areas where I put that concealer earlier, and then I go underneath my cheekbones and everything. I dip my brush in the powder and then like dip off any excess, and that's how I apply it. And I'm going in with this, I think it's the Evolution Powder 4 or 4.5 from the Nestor Marks Beauty, and this is one of my favorite ones. This was like one of my favorites like this time last year. I absolutely loved it. But I feel like it does a pretty good job, and I don't know, I feel like once you start doing certain techniques with your makeup and stuff, like you just like get stuck with it, because I didn't do all of this like, 2 years ago. I didn't. And then when I was like doing my makeup like in high school and stuff, I wasn't adding all these different powders all over my face. But it's like now I'm just like, girl, if I did not do that, I feel like I would look at my makeup and be like, this is not giving what it needs to give. But I'm using the One Size Made for Shade Trio bronzer palette, and I usually just use the one in the middle. Like the one below is a little bit darker, but if I want to really sculpt my face and I really wanted a like cool tone like bronzer, I would use that. And then now we're going back in with the REM Beauty palette just to finish my eyes, because I want to make sure I add whatever shades I do above my eyes, underneath my eyes, just to make it look a little bit more cohesive. And I also feel like it helps just with like the makeup longevity like underneath my eyes, because usually I try not to get too close to my eyes with the concealer and stuff, just because I don't want to get in my eyes. And then like the concealer and stuff, like if I put it up too high, I feel like I've just had issues in the past with it like setting and like it like not starting to like move when I get like hot or whatever. But yeah, whenever I do my underneath my eye, I try to use smaller brushes, that way I can be a little bit more precise, because I don't want it to go everywhere, but I do want to be able to like move and blend everything out. And then I don't know what happened to the footage, like I don't know what was going on this day, but I'm using this liquid blush from Juvia's Place. Mind you, these blushes are pigmented, and I do be going a little heavy handed with the blush or whatever, but I love blush. Like I absolutely love it, especially on my nose and my chin. Like I don't know, I feel like it gives clown, but like I kind of fuck with it, if that makes sense. But anyways, I'm just setting in my blush with this like orange like powder blush from Juvia's Place, and I'm taking my foundation brush and just going over it just to like de-intensify like the blush just a little bit. And I'm spraying my face again with that hydrating setting spray once it has dried down. I'm going with this Black Moon Cosmetics liquid, or not even liquid, this loose pigment. I think it's called Sapphire Dreams, and I use it as a highlight all the time. I just love how it looks and stuff, so I just highlight all the areas I normally highlight. So that's underneath my brow, like my arch, I do on my nose, on my chin a little bit, and then on my cheeks. And once I do that, I'm going in with my About Face shadow stick and Kill the Lights. I prefer this shadow stick or like this eyeliner versus like smaller ones, just because I feel like it just covers a bigger area or whatever. And then I'm going in with my liquid liner, because I forgot to do this before I did everything else, but I just line the top of my lash line just so that like my lashes blend in a little bit better when I put the fake ones on. And then I'm drawing my moles back on with that same liner. I have moles, like I have so many moles, but I just like to add them back on because I feel like it just adds to the makeup look. And now I'm just using this thicker one like mascara for my top lashes. This is from Win Beauty, and I just like to use a thicker one for the top ones, and then I use a like lengthening mascara for my bottom lashes. I'm using the REM Beauty lengthening mascara for my bottom lashes. Oh my gosh. But yeah, this is one of my favorite like bottom lash mascaras. It's not too tiny, but it's not humongous that I feel like it'll just get everywhere. And I decided to go ahead and set my face with the Scratch by Cat Set in Place spray. And once that dries down, I'm over here putting rhinestones in my eyebrows because at this point it's a I feel like it's just a signature look of mine, and I like to like actually make them like kind of look the same color as like my brows. I feel like it just eats a little bit differently. And then I didn't have any black lash glue, so I just put clear lash glue on, and I like let it set for like 30 seconds to a minute. That way it gets tacky, because if you try to put it on right away, like I feel like it just does not stick how it's supposed to, and I feel like that's when my lashes really be looking crazy. But I try to press down on one area and get that area to stick down before I move to the inner area, the outer area, just depending on like how I put it on. I usually always just put my right lash on first. I don't know why, it's just easier for me to start that way, and that's like the side of my face that I always do my makeup on first, and then I'll do my left side. But I'm using this Cherry Pick lip color butter from About Face. These are so freaking pigmented, and I'm glad that they don't plump, because I feel like there's so many other products like this on the market, but they plump, and I hate that feeling. Like I do not like the mint like tingling feeling. I don't want that. And I used this Glit Balm from Get Stone in the middle just to make it ombre. And I was like, okay, this is not deep enough. So I take my About Face like lip gloss, and I'm just deepening up the outside. That way it's a little bit more of an ombre color. and a little bit like more dimensional, because I feel like it was just like too light in shade for my liking. But yeah, I'm just mixing my lips together just so you can see like the little ombre effect, and this is what my makeup looks like. I hope y'all enjoyed that video. Please ignore the pink in my hair. I absolutely don't even know how I did that, but I love y'all so much. And if y'all want to see any videos in particular, please let me know, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.